Jocelyn and Mike have homeschooled their 5 children for years. It is not easy, but worth it. Jocelyn and Mike van der Grend, a couple from Bridgetown, Western Australia, have homeschooled their 5 children for 15 years while running an organic egg farm. They have educated their children during primary and early high school years before enrolling them in long-distance education in years 11 and 12. While it is not easy, the van der Grends have found homeschooling and long-distance education to be the perfect solution for their family, especially with the flexibility it provides. The Western Australia Department of Education has seen an increase in distance education and homeschooling enrolments in recent years. How cocaine gets into Australia, and the battle to keep it out. Australian authorities are struggling to keep up with the surge of cocaine detections in the country. The vast majority of the drug comes from Colombia, where law enforcement battles drug cartels to stem the flow of narcotics beyond their borders. Explosions in coca production, record consumption, and potential for huge profits have fueled the drug's spread. Despite the risks, undercover detectives like Vince Hurley have assumed aliases and infiltrated drug rings in a bid to keep the drug off Australian streets. In the 9 months to date, authorities have seized 4.3 tons worth of cocaine. Farmers trial hemp feed for cattle, marron to see if it boosts healthy omegas in the meat. A farming family in Western Australia is conducting a trial, feeding their cattle and marron hemp-based pellets to test if it can enhance both animal health and meat quality. The study involves feeding hemp pellets to 9 Angus Wagyu cross cattle, while the control herd eats other pasture fodder. This independent research aims to see an increase in beneficial omegas and a decrease in cholesterol in the animal, thereby producing a healthier meat product. The study is closely monitored to ensure it adheres to all regulations, and the farm hopes to improve animal health, human health, and the planet. Title: Women in Post-Roe America Fear for Their Lives and Rights. In the year since the U.S. Supreme Court overturned the landmark Roe v. Wade decision, abortion has become heavily restricted or banned altogether in many states. This situation has left millions of women in America without access to safe and legal abortion services and has put their lives at risk. Women like Anya Cook, who was recently denied an abortion and later miscarried in a hair salon bathroom. With the return of power to the states to enforce restrictions, women's reproductive rights have been put at risk, and it is a cause of concern for many ahead of next year's presidential election. Title: Experts warn against social media's impact on Voice to Parliament referendum. Australian criminologists and academics are raising concerns over the impact of social media on the upcoming Voice to Parliament referendum. Posts on community Facebook pages are endorsing vigilante action and stirring racial tensions in regional towns. This has led to online comments opposing the Indigenous Voice to Parliament, which could influence voting intentions. Experts fear that unmoderated social media commentary could sway the voice vote, leading to racism and vigilantism. Academics are calling for stricter moderation on social media platforms and for the public to be mindful of the dangers of keyboard warriors. Indigenous groups say proposed gold mine sits at confluence of sacred dreaming story, but company objects. Traditional owners and elders are urging the Federal Environment Minister to intervene in a Regis Resources gold mine project in New South Wales. The McPhillamys mine at Blaney, near Bathurst, has been approved by the state government but is on hold until a federal heritage protection application, submitted in 2020, is resolved. A group of Wiradjuri elders and traditional owners has submitted knowledge about the site's significance as part of the application and fears the mine will destroy one of the most significant Australian Aboriginal cultural landscapes, which includes the Ballubula River. Regis Resources said the project site had no significant cultural values. Title: Young man brings joy to elderly residents through music and dance. Nick Margan, a 27-year-old with Down syndrome, has found his calling in bringing joy to elderly residents in a Brisbane aged care facility through music and dance. Margan visits the Regis Aged Care Facility every week armed with a list of tunes which he performs with residents, often leading the sing-alongs with dance. While Margan is an entertainer, the facility's volunteer coordinator Vicky Bavich said he also has a really compassionate heart. Group singing, like sing-alongs, is known to offer strong social benefits, according to clinical psychology professor Genevieve Dingle. Title: Australian students benefit from studying in Indonesia. Australian university students studying in Indonesia are gaining a deeper understanding of the country and its culture. The Australian Government Scholarship Program has sent over 5,800 students to Indonesia since 2014. Students have spoken about how their time in the country has enriched their understanding of minority groups and helped their careers. Many Australians have a limited understanding of Indonesia beyond Bali, but studying in the country has opened their eyes to the colour and complexity of Indonesian life. The students are studying at universities across the country, and their experiences show the benefits of studying abroad. How volunteer gardeners are helping older Australians to live independently. A group of volunteer gardeners is helping older Australians to remain independent at home by reducing the risk of falls caused by trip hazards in overgrown gardens. The initiative is part of a charity called Easy Care Gardening, which operates in the Ryde, Hunters Hill, Hornsby, and Ku-ring-gai areas. Volunteers cut back overgrown branches and bushes that encroach on pathways, making it easier for people to move around their gardens. The recent economic downturn has led to a drop in volunteer numbers, but the charity's work is still vital for the health and well-being of older Australians. The Reserve Bank's goal: more unemployment. The Reserve Bank has announced that it wants to increase the unemployment rate to help bring inflation down, sparking controversy. However, writer Gareth Hutchins believes we should praise the bank for speaking plainly and openly about how policymakers manage the economy. The concept of full employment has evolved over time, with each definition having different economic outcomes and consequences. In William Beveridge's 1944 book Full Employment in a Free Society, he said genuine full employment would have slightly more jobs available than unemployed people to fill them. Hutchins argues that the RBA's goal can start a national conversation about this system. Title: Clothing exchanges on the rise as families seek to stretch budgets. Amid the cost of living pressures, more and more Australians are turning to clothing exchanges to save money and reduce waste. Alison Howes set up a clothing exchange in Toowoomba earlier this year, where people can bring in unwanted clothes and receive credit to purchase other items. The concept has been around for decades, but social media has boosted its reach, with more stores popping up for the resale of good quality clothes. Op shops have also seen a big increase in sales, despite some saying they have become unaffordable. Clothing exchanges offer a win-win for families looking to save money and reduce waste. Title: Inquiry reveals Tasmanian prisoners released into homelessness end up back in jail. More than half of the prisoners released from Risdon Prison in Tasmania this year are expected to exit into some form of homelessness, with over 50% of them ending up back behind bars, according to a parliamentary inquiry. The inquiry heard from experts who identified a lack of affordable housing and a shortage of resources for mental health and drug and alcohol services as factors that contribute to the failure of the system to serve its rehabilitative functions. The chief executive of advocacy group JU Tasmania called for greater focus on and resourcing of services that support community reintegration, such as case management and wraparound support. Transgender woman avoids hospital due to discrimination during mental health crisis. Transgender woman Rosie Brennan has shared her negative experiences with medical professionals when seeking help for her mental health crisis, including discrimination towards her gender identity and name. This led her to avoid going to the hospital when she needed to for several years. Dr. Miranda Han, a Hobart GP with more than 100 trans and gender-diverse patients, shared that such negative experiences are common among this community due to a lack of education about trans and gender-diverse patients in university modules and GP training. Dr. Han has started her own social media group and conducts training sessions to share information with doctors. The importance of calling patients by their preferred name and pronouns is also stressed to medical professionals. Title: Emails show billionaire's efforts to fast-track Sydney precinct rezoning as locals fight back. Australia's second richest man, Harry Triguboff, reportedly urged the New South Wales government to fast-track rezoning around Little Bay in Sydney's east. Emails obtained under a Freedom of Information request revealed the property developer's attempts to rezone the area to build up to 1,600 homes, generating billions of dollars for the government. However, locals have opposed Meriton's plans, citing environmental and infrastructure concerns, and Randwick Council and the Sydney City East Planning Panel have rejected proposals in the past. Meriton is now trying its luck with a pilot program launched by the Peritet government. Title: Taking regular daytime naps might help keep your brain healthy, a new study suggests. A new study shows that taking regular daytime naps may be the key to maintaining brain volume as we age. The study, conducted by researchers at University College London and the University of the Republic in Uruguay, found that there is a relation between genetic predispositions to habitual daytime napping and larger brain volume equivalent to 2.6 to 6.5 fewer years of aging. While napping can improve cognition, researchers cautioned that it is still unclear whether napping increases brain size or vice versa. Experts recommend keeping your naps to 15 to 20 minutes to avoid grogginess. Kaylee was drowning at school and hated going, but now she loves it. Welcome to the academy designed for the disengaged. Hester Hornbook Academy in Melbourne, Australia, is offering a solution to the nationwide problem of school phobia or school refusal. Kaylee, a 17-year-old student, suffered from crushing school phobia but now attends Hester Hornbook Academy, a school dedicated to helping young people who refuse or cannot attend traditional schools. The academy offers free haircuts, lunch, and public transport to its students. According to the school principal, Sally Laslett, the academy has a formula that works as an antidote to the disconnect in education. The academy's success rate in further education, employment, or apprenticeships is over 76%. Title: Crisis in Moscow, the Kremlin is panicking. Moscow is in turmoil as the Kremlin appears to be panicking. The situation is murky, but one thing is clear: soldiers in army trucks are being moved around the streets of Moscow, reinforcing key facilities such as television stations and energy infrastructure. Russian state TV has interrupted programming several times to urge people not to listen to the disinformation being spread, and Vladimir Putin has gone into hiding. The crisis has been driven by Yevgeny Prigozhin, the head of the Wagner Group, who has now said that his 25,000 fighters, who are leaving Ukraine, will march on Moscow. Title: Disability access concerns raised for Taylor Swift's Australian concert. Wheelchair user and blogger, Amy Evans, has spoken out about the discrimination she faced while trying to arrange tickets for Taylor Swift's Australian concert at the MCG. Evans, who lives with a neurological condition, was told she could fill in a form to request an accessible ticket and that the venue may not be able to accommodate her support worker in a VIP section. Ticketek later messaged her to say they would not know which seats were allocated as accessible prior to general release. Evans has since called for accessible seating to be allocated prior to on-sale times. Title: Sydney Harbour Bridge closes as soccer fever builds for Women's World Cup. The Sydney Harbour Bridge closed temporarily to traffic on Sunday as thousands of soccer fans celebrated the upcoming FIFA Women's World Cup. The Unity celebration marked the 25-day countdown to the international soccer competition kicking off in Australia and New Zealand in July. The event began with a smoking ceremony followed by live cultural performances and speeches. Head of the 2023 competition, Rhiannon Martin, said she was expecting a massive turnout. The 2023 competition will run from Thursday, July 20 to Sunday, August 20, with 32 countries vying for the trophy, the largest number of competitors in the women's competition so far. Russian mercenary boss orders troops to turn back from Moscow to avoid bloodshed. Mutinous Russian mercenary boss Yevgeny Prigozhin has ordered his fighters, who had been advancing on Moscow, to turn around and return to their bases to avoid bloodshed. Mr. Prigozhin had earlier said he wanted to oust the army's top brass and restore justice. The fighters of the Wagner Private Army were already most of the way to the capital, having captured the city of Rostov-on-Don and set off on a 1,100-kilometer race to Moscow. Facing the first serious challenge to his grip on power, President Vladimir Putin had vowed to crush the armed mutiny. Link